Happy Fantasy Friday. This is the Banter and Bookmarks podcast. We are Lindsey,
Kelly,
and Katharine, and we are three book besties diving into romantasy with unhinged theories and a bit of spice.
today we have a fun bonus episode for you covering Chapter 1 of Book 2 in the Veils of Terr series by JR Cathers. This will contain spoilers for everything that is currently released, including Book 1, Child of Shivay, Xeyvian's bonus chapter, and now this chapter from Vakesh's POV.
And if you need your Child of Shivay fix until Book 2 and Book 1.5, have fun listening to our deep dive series on Book 1.
But for now, pour yourself a drink, come escape reality with us, and let's talk about books.
All right, Katharine, can you get us started with a summary for Vakesh's point of view chapter?
It is present day, and Vakesh is in Brax, in a place called the Sunken Keep. This keep is ancient, and the jungle surrounding it is luscious and full of life. The conversation he is having is with his Aunt Murray. And it's not so peaceful. Did you hear what I just said there?
Say it again.
Aunt Murray? Murray is Vakesh's aunt, which means we were right. And Vakesh is the child that was born and died at the sundering.
Yeah, he was.
Bitches, we got it.
Do you know the dance that I did when I read that sentence? I was
Oh my
like,
God.
yes!
The cheers.
Confirmed.
We cheered.
Cheers, seriously. That one felt big, guys. That one felt big.
Yeah.
Huge. Well,
Huge.
Murray is furious at Vakesh for letting Shivaria, the Voltura, leave him. Vakesh and Murray continue to argue about Shivaria's fate, and the conversation ends with Vakesh asking Murray to free him from his oath to her. Murray picks up her mask and leaves the keep.
After she departs, Vakesh rushes through the sunken keep, making his way to his room to grab a small leather-bound bundle, then continuing down the hall. He barges into a room and interrupts three people in the throes of passion, a male soldier and two female cousins. Vakesh excuses the soldier and has a conversation with the two females, which proves to be tough since his oath with Murray is holding him back from saying exactly what he needs from them. They are members of a group called the Blade, and choosing his words carefully, he asks them to go look for the Voltura and to help her. They immediately understand and take off in pursuit of Shivaria.
Vakesh makes his way into the night, seeking a nymph named Ash and screaming, "The child you lost," into the darkness to call her attention. Desperately searching for her, he crosses over a border between their lands and is in immediate searing pain. He crawls back to Fane lands, and Ash comes to meet him at the border, asking after the child. Because of his oath, however, he cannot say more. Ash asks Vakesh if Shivaria is dead or injured, and he shakes his head to both. She then asks if she's in danger and where she is, and he again is unable to answer. Ash understands, though, and Vakesh tells her that Vasky and Freya are also helping him look for Shivaria. Ash disappears, and Vakesh hopes that Vasky, Freya, and Ash can help him find her before Murray does.
I know.
Oh, God.
Okay, let's break this down because there's a lot to talk about here. We finally get a good look at Brax. So let's describe it. We are at the Sunken Keep. Brax is a rich jungle, harmony, crickets, frogs, pleasure, welcome breeze, life, blooming flowers, streams and rivers, this ethereal light. It's like the first paragraph, and it's described very beautifully,
Yeah,
I think.
You know what it reminds me of? Avatar, like the movie Avatar.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
colors and the light and the glow. Like as soon as I heard this, I was like, oh, this feels like that, but maybe a little bit more lush and green versus like the blues and the purples. But it was so beautiful.
It's so interesting how it is such a stark difference to the rest of the Latari continent.
yeah.
I also think it is interesting, too, because remember, Shivaria and Vakesh went to Brax at the beginning of book
Yes.
1. And it wasn't described as a jungle. It was described more as a forest. So there are definitely different parts of Brax. So this is deep into Brax, wherever they are. So you have to figure, if it could have been a forest and a jungle, this place has got to be pretty big.
Huge.
Yeah.
Just massive.
So
And there's
continent.
this interesting mention of star flowers. And remember, those bloomed in book 1 when Xeyvian met Shivaria for the first time, and Zay even recalled them in his bonus chapter. And so I find it just so fitting that those are also recalled here in Vakesh's own. I mean, triangle. Love triangle,
Yeah.
100%.
Ooh,
Interesting parallels, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. We get a quote. The keep was built long before the written histories, built to resemble one of the many hills that make up the maze of Braxian jungles. Only 8 floors still remain above water. How many remain below the dark waters filling its ancient halls, I've never learned. I doubt any alive today have. This place is old.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, and you're telling me that none of the Vitruk, and I mean, this is Muri's house, we have to assume, and she's never been to all the floors of her house.
Wild.
Well, maybe she has, but Vakesh
Other
hasn't,
people
I guess.
No, I doubt any alive today have.
Oh, no, that's a fair comment. That's a fair comment. Do we think this is
Are
the
there
same
mermaids?
place that Vakesh was born? I don't get the
don't-
impression they're with
I
the
don't-
Vitruk, so I
Yeah.
get the impression they're in a separate place.
Yeah, the name of
Yeah.
the chapter in Child of Shivay, when the child was born and the whole scene happened,
The
where he was
sundering.
the sundering, it's in Brax, but it doesn't say there. I don't think it says the sunken keep
Mm-mm.
specifically.
it
So I
doesn't.
think, so I
Mm-mm.
think
It's
it's
just-
meant to be different. That's my
I
guess.
get the impression that it's not the same
Mm.
place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought that
'Cause also-
that house was like a cottage kind of
Yeah, also,
place.
though, Muri was not the mother. Muri was the aunt. So this is Muri's place. I would assume they
That's
were
fair.
in the parents' home giving
true.
birth. I don't know how medical care works in Brax.
Let's also make a connection here. We know that the author is writing book 1.5, and we know because of posts that she's made online that the book 1.5 seemingly has to do with the ancients. So I wonder if you talk about like this place is ancient, I doubt any alive today have. It's dark waters filling its ancient halls. I wonder if this is their house, maybe.
Ooh, yeah.
Like if it
I like
originally
that.
belonged to the ancients.
Uh-huh. I'm here for it.
Mm.
Sure.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Oh, you can really theorize.
You should
Those-
start a podcast.
Those ancients that we know so much about,
You
after
guys.
all.
I
Is
took
it
one
obvious-
Instagram post and I made that. So let's see how that goes.
You guys, I'm so excited that we're back in this world again. It has
I know.
been
Me
too
too.
long, and it's not been that long, but I
Like a month.
freaking love being in Terr. I love it. Keep me here forever.
All right. So Vakesh says, quote, I know what to expect when I gave my report. Still, I could never regret my decision, not this one. So here he's talking about, he is going to his Aunt Muri and he is telling her what happened, right, with Shivaria
Yeah.
on the ship here. He is giving the report of what happened.
Don't you think this kind of proves that Tig is not working with Muri then? Because Muri is furious at this. And
Yeah.
Shivaria went with Tig. And not only that, Felius almost like he gave her a nod, remember, on that ship? Like, I see you going to Tig. I want you to. I was thinking that Tig and Muri weren't necessarily working together. And the fact that Muri is mad here when we know
Yeah.
Shivaria is with Tig kind of cements that for me.
Yeah, and that actually makes it too, so there's not necessarily two sides to this.
There's
kerfluffle.
like
There's
50 sides.
17.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because I think that they are working together, but I think that Muri thinks they're 100% on the same page.
Yeah.
But the sprites are like, we're gonna do this, but like we have our like side quests almost. There's more that we'll talk about later in the episode about other things that I think are going on, and I think you're right. It's like a lot of proof in this chapter that there are multiple sides and multiple missions going on.
Yeah.
All right.
And I almost got the impression that maybe even Tig used Murray.
Possibly. They're
as
out
a
for
way to
their own thing. Yeah.
But not in a bad way, because
No.
I love Tig. Tig is fine. Whatever she wants to do, I trust
wrong.
Tig. You're a good girl.
Did you hear us? We love you. Okay,
We
bye.
love you. All right. So
Love
his
you.
aunt, Murray, is furious that Vakesh let the Voltura leave him. Okay, so let's take a real moment here to celebrate that win. Remember, listeners, this is one of our unhinged theories from book 1 that we thought that Vakesh is the true child born to Voss and Keswick, whose life Murray had to tie to Shivay, and we are correct.
Yes.
Boom. Mic drop.
So let's discuss her appearance. The gnarled and withered flesh of her hands, a harsh contrast to the long silken length of her black hair and rich fain beauty of her face. She also has crooked fingers and a nail cracked from end to end. So why are her hands and her nails and her arms so broken and battered and gnarled when her face and her hair is not? Do we have any thoughts about the difference in her appearance there?
It's to match her cold, dead heart. I don't know. I don't like Murray right now. I just personally don't like Murray. I have to wonder if she's almost somehow been corrupted by something.
Okay.
So I don't dislike Murray. I think Murray is very much in a state of like sacrifice one for the greater good, and like I think she believes strongly that this is the right path. I don't think that she is necessarily corrupted. I think that she doesn't see Shivaria as being worthy of anything besides like what she was meant to do. I don't think she's corrupted. But from this like crooked finger, the nails are cracked. I think, what is the name of the stuff? Is it Shadowbane that when you take it, they talk about like how your hands pitch your teeth and your nails and your hands. I think this is a clue that Murray is using pitch in some way, because why is like when she is,
that's an
get
interesting
to in a little
thought.
bit
like
when
that.
she's not wearing the mask, why are her hands or is like are your hands like the last thing to turn when you take the mask off and you wear the mask so much? Maybe it's like a remnant of the person that you are when you put that mask on. Those are my two theories.
The pitch thing would make sense, how Vakesh knows what it is and how to get it too. Because he wanted to offer it to Shivaria. I just think it's odd that whatever it is, that it wouldn't affect her face and her hair, and it would
100%.
affect her hands.
Murray says to Vakesh, quote, "We waited years, Vakesh. Did you even think of the lives we lost to the Latari when you let her off that ship? Do you know how many people died trying to find her and bring her back here?" He thinks to himself that she knows he does, and that he can remember every single soul lost to the Vatruk in this war. That is interesting. That he refers to them as the Vatruk as if they are not part of that group anymore.
That was what I was thinking when we were in that book. Like, I get when Medea calls out, like, our game of Count the Vatruk, and there's 10 of them. But I don't get the sense that Xeyvian, Murray, and Vakesh are what I would consider Vatruk.
Current
active members of the Justice
not
League,
dues
of
paying
the
members. Yes.
And I think that's an important distinction, that the Vatruk ultimately are still a group of Fain who are very, very old and powerful, but what binds them is an ideal and causes that they're fighting for more than anything else. And I guess the means for which they're willing to sacrifice Fae to accomplish that.
Yeah. It's essentially their gang name. They came together. Other people started referring to them as the Vatruk, right? I think in Child of Shivay, they talk about in that education session that they weren't always called the Vatruk. People like they eventually became that. So it's kind of their gang name, really, for lack of a better term.
I because I love backstory and I want Jess to give us just more and more and more. I want the backstory on how Muri got Vakesh away from his parents. You know, you would think the child would be with his
I
parents.
mean, listen, if we're getting a Vakesh POV as chapter 1, I'm assuming we're going to get more Vakesh POVs in this book.
Yeah, some
I'm
flashbacks.
guessing we're going to get that story in this book. There's also a line in this paragraph here. I kind of think that it's important that she says, "Oh, after everything we did to free her.
Free her. Yeah.
So I just think that line of like, after everything we did to free her, what did they do exactly? What did Muri do? What did Vakesh do? Like, we talked a lot in our coverage of the book 1 about what Vakesh was doing behind the scenes, but I want to know all of those like puzzle pieces and all those strings that were pulled that was happening.
Yeah.
No, that's a great, great point, because we know what Muri did, right? It was all the bargains to try to shed this from her so she could become the Valtura. But Vakesh told us that he didn't know about that first instance, right? And in Brax, that first instance with Bagia, he didn't know about it until it was explained to him after.
Yeah.
So he wasn't involved. So to your point, Lindsey, what did Vakesh do, if anything, that aided her in becoming more Valtura? Like,
and I have to wonder, there's got to be so much more, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and what exact are they talking? Like, free her from what? Are they saying free her from who she was to be Valtura?
Yeah.
Are they talking about free her from the Latari? Free her from the situation in Acherai? Like, free her from the ship? More. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like, what exactly? We're jumping. And it could be all those things or only one of those smaller pieces, and we don't know.
I know.
So let's circle back to the ship. We are either referring to the ship that Shivaria took at the beginning of book 1, or it could also be the ship that she was on at the very end of book 1. And there are like reasons and things that we can see, rationale we could see for either. So we need to know what happened with Vakesh and Muri in either the months leading up to this final day from when Shivaria got off the ship to go to Acherai for the first time, or in the week or so since Shivaria has been on this ship healing and then jumped off to save herself, essentially. A lot of things were happening in the background in book 1. People were apparently sent and killed. It gave me a flashback to that moment when Shivaria killed that Drakai soldier that was sent and came into Xeyvian's room and she killed him. And I wonder if that soldier was actually there to save Shivaria. Like, we truly don't know what they're talking about and what other missions and other things were happening behind the scenes. There's also this indication that Vakesh wasn't supposed to let her off the ship. So again, if they're talking about in the beginning of book 1, what do you mean she wasn't supposed to get off the ship? What was she supposed? So you're telling me this whole thing wasn't supposed to happen? She wasn't supposed to go to Xeyvian? That's sus to me. So I feel like there's just so much that we could theorize on here. What do you guys think?
I think it just all goes back to everyone's loyalties. I mean, with Muri, with Felius, with Vakesh, with Xeyvian, with any of them, we really don't truly know where anybody's loyalties lie at this point.
Yeah. And my first read of it, I always took the impression that this ship was the ship she just got off of. Not the Vatruk ship she was tortured on, right? But then the Acherai ship they saw in the distance, which turned out to have Felius and Vakesh on it. But then when Muri says, did you think of the lives we lost to Latari? I'm like, okay, well, how do they come into the equation if that's the case? So it is a bit confusing. Definitely plans have been derailed a few places. Let's just say that.
At minimum. Minimum.
Muri reminds Vakesh that he had the Valtura, and Vakesh thinks to himself, quote, Muri enunciates the word like I've forgotten what it means, what she means to the Fae, to tear. It is the only thing that will put an end to all of this death and suffering. I think this is really interesting because we postulated in our deep dive coverage, right, that tying Vakesh's life to Terr is what's causing the death and suffering, right? Because Terr is dying. So it sounds here that the solution to that is the Valtura. But I just can't decide if using the Valtura is going to kill Shivaria, Vakesh, both. I can't decide what Vakesh believes is going to happen to either Shivaria or himself. I feel like I'm getting the impression Vakesh knows his life was tied to Terr. I don't know the handbook on how you use a Valtura.
The handbook.
What did the ancients intend?
He says at some point in this chapter, I understand better than most the burden of purpose. And to me, that reads that he knows that he also is sacrifice at some point. And again, we talked about this and we kind of all agree that it might come down to Vakesh having to be sacrificed. And I think that kind of puts the nail in that coffin there for me.
I think he believes that too, and I think he's willing to do it. I don't know about anybody else, but I liked Vakesh in book 1 on my second read. Yeah. I love him after this chapter. Like I really like him, and I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Well, getting his POV, you really see that everything that he did was to protect Shivaria. Like when you don't get it from his POV, when you get it from just hers, you don't know what his intentions are. And so now when you see it, everything is about her.
100%. I think
so it makes you fall in love with him.
He is loyal to Shivaria, in my opinion, above all else. He's oath-bound to Muri. He has to obey certain things, but his ultimate loyalty in my mind is her. And it actually infuriates him. Muri uses the word it, and he snaps back at his aunt, quote, she. She's a person, Muri, not a thing for you to use. She has a choice in all of this, and if she chooses to walk away, I will still fight until all that is left of me is my soul as it takes its journey to Halil. But I will not force her or anyone else to take up this cause. Woof.
Yeah.
Woof. Because that's more so proof. Ominous and speaks to what we've been saying, that he's almost like accepted his fate in all of this. And I mean, take up the cause. I would assume it's the cause of the Fae ultimately. But I mean, that's an assumption we're making, right?
Right.
Muri claps back against him even. She says, quote, she was made for it. Her purpose here has only ever been to protect the Fae that remain. So do we think that is the confirmation that we've been looking for, that is what the ancients intended for how the Valtura was to be used? Or do we just think this is what Muri wants to use the Valtura for? How are we feeling on that kind of distinction?
I think this quote is purposefully very broad. So I do think that her purpose is very specific, and it has to do with saving and protecting and this ultimate good outcome. I don't know at this point if I understand what exactly that means, and if I believe that Muri is aligned in that sense, but without knowing more about exactly if the ancients had like a very specific path, if I feel like Muri is straying from that path or not. It almost feels like she's a zealot. Like the purpose has been lost to her. Like she technically is on the path, but like has she strayed because she got so serious about it that she like refuses to see reality? I don't know.
Or is there even a conflict of interest, right? Because Muri could just be wanting to correct her error of binding Vakesh to Shivay. So it's like,
that's a good point.
Is she using the Valtura the way the ancients wanted? Or is she like, well, I'm going to get a 2-for-1 special out of this deal? You like that one?
I do.
I definitely think that the ancients planted, get it? Because Shivaria is a seed. You're welcome. Shivaria for the reason to protect the Fae, but I agree with Kelly that I don't know enough yet to know if it is meant in this way or
Right.
if Miri has bastardized
Like,
It's
does she
the
have those
Voltura's
blinders?
purpose. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And we have to still wonder how Vakesh and Shivaria's bond via Shivay and how
Mhm.
that's going to interplay with all of this as well.
Yeah.
We're just going to clap back. We're just going to go back and forth like a tennis match. So Vakesh then responds to Miri, when did you get like this? You think her life is worth less than the sprites you love so fiercely? Worth, and then he actually continues it on. He says, worth less than my life or
Mhm.
yours. And if you knew her, and then she just stops him. She's like,
Yeah.
she was made for it. And she literally snarls at him.
Mhm.
Like, calm down. To your point, it does feel very zealot-ish, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay, but sprites, we know and love 2
Mhm.
sprites. Is this a reference to those sprites or is this others? What's our guess? Lay down your guess right now.
I think it includes them, but I think it's sprites as a whole.
Sprites, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it originally was also Tig and Eon. I think they've probably diverged paths. I don't think they're with her.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that he doesn't say less than the fae you love so fiercely. I think
He
it's
says
interesting that
sprites,
he
yeah.
says sprites. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a
And
good
going
point.
back to what Lindsey just said, our little seed theory, Miri says she was made for it. Not born,
Mhm.
made.
made.
Made. I think that line also points to what we talked about a little bit earlier. Like, when did you get like this, right? Like, she is so committed to this cause that she is not any longer seeing Shivaria as a being, but as a seed, as a mission to only do X, Y, and Z. And I think that points to Muri potentially caring more about seeing the benefit of the whole versus thinking about Shivaria's life specifically. I think she feels like her life doesn't matter in a sense of like she was meant to be sacrificed or she was meant to do this thing and it is going to save everybody else. And so I am okay with sacrificing one for the good of the many. And I think that's going to be a theme that's going to come up a lot in the next books, not just book 2 in this story, but I think we're going to see that as a theme even in offshoots and in the next book, which is technically book 1.5, not a novella, is a story that happens at a different time.
And I love that because I'm hating on Muri, but I recognize fully that she's a very, very complex character, right? And to everything you guys have been saying of, yes, but she sees what has to be done, even if that means the sacrifice of this one person. I get it. I love it. I think having gray characters all the way around is fantastic. I'm here for it.
And it's a classic morality and ethics question, right? Like any ethics course that you take in any higher level education, they're going to ask you questions about the good of the one versus the good of the many. And it's ethically challenging. And that's why I think it's brilliant, because it's easy to make that decision when you don't know the one that you're sacrificing, right? It's like, well, obviously I'm going to save the 20 people on the rail. Okay, but if it's someone that you love and that you care about, it ethically is a dilemma. And so it's really cool to have it happening in the book in this way. So Vakesh says to Muri, quote, I understand better than most, this is the quote that Lindsey said before, the burden of purpose, Muri, and the fates will have their way with all of us in time. But you and I both know what comes from trying to force the path of their design.
Fates. Okay.
Interesting.
I need to know what that we both know what comes. What came?
Right.
What specific? Can you give me an example? XYZ, please. Please.
Right. In what way? Because clearly it points to some meddling in the past where they know what's meant to happen, but they're trying to hurry things up. And I love that. It's like you can't just force, even though you know what the outcome's going to be. It's not just the end justify the means. It's like all of the things have to happen and it has to go boom, 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 boom. Right.
Okay. The word fates too. Let's point this out because Jess at some point had posted a not safe for work artwork on her Instagram. And actually, it also, the same artwork went out in the special editions.
Yep.
So if you got the special edition box, it is the artwork with Shivaria and Xeyvian wrapped up in
They're
each other
hugging
in
each
front of the
Hugging.
They're hugging
Very nice.
in front
nakedly.
of the fireplace. And if
Front
you look in the
hugging.
fireplace, there are 4, I think, figurines on the
Yes.
mantle.
Yep.
And on that Instagram post, I asked her if those were the fates, and her response was eyeball emojis. So I think that the fates are going to actually be characters in the book at some point.
Yes.
100%.
And that would also lead to the fact that Xeyvian would, I don't want to use the word worship, but if he had figurines of them on his mantle, he would respect them.
I think respect is the right word.
100%.
I
Respect
like the
would be a good word,
respect.
right?
Yes.
Yes. So let's kind of keep that in mind. And everyone, if you haven't gone to look at that artwork, go look at it now and then read this quote. And the fates will have their way with us in time. So we will see actual fate characters.
And she told us, she said,
Mhm.
think of the fates as literal beings.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that taking this quote also just simply at face value, but you and I both know what comes from trying to force the path of their design. I think the most obvious is the sundering. When
Oh, for
she
sure.
bound his
Oh,
life
yeah.
to Terr,
Yeah.
that is
Yes.
the specific
Yes.
example of what
Yes.
has the consequences for
Yes.
that. Because the fates had designed certain things, and then she brought him back to life
Mhm.
and
For
screwed
sure.
with that.
Yeah, 100%. And so after he says this whole thing, Muri responds and says, "This is the path the fates have destined for her." And Vakesh snaps, "Fine, then do what you must." And there's a tone, and she calls out the tone of like, "What do you mean, do what I must? Like, what are you gonna do, Vakesh?"
There was also a quote when Muri, she has to have the last word
Does.
to what he just said. He's telling her, you do what you have to do. I'm going to do what I have to do. And she's like, and what do you think you need to do? Because I think she realizes he's still pining very much for her. And it doesn't matter what she says about any of this. He still feels that way. And all of this is kind of like it's just cementing. He's loyal to Shivaria
Yeah.
above all else.
Yes. Love it.
And continuing on, having to have the last word, she says, she's not yours to protect, Vakesh, not your student or your mate. She's not even your friend. Now, okay, one, that was a bitch thing to say. I'm sorry. That was
Seriously,
just
drive the
really,
heart.
really rude. I think her word choice is very intentional.
Oh, yeah.
She's not your mate. That is accurate. He's not currently her mate, but that doesn't mean he wasn't ever her
Right.
mate.
Because the other two things that she says are things that she once was. She once was his student, and she once was his friend.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
And
Sneaky.
yes. And Vakesh even mentions every word is a dagger she hurls with lethal precision, though some are only partial truths. So I have to wonder, I think Muri knows everything, but I think this, though there are only partial truths, this is Vakesh thinking this. I think that proves that Vakesh knows he was Navari's mate at one time.
Well, so let's remind listeners,
Yes.
part of the reason why we think that is because the use of the word Miajna, right?
Yep.
Vakesh calls Shivaria Miajna, as does Xeyvian. And our interpretation, our guess, that we are pretty 99.9% sure that we are correct on, is that Miajna means my mate,
Yes.
right? In
Yes.
Fane. And we postulated in our coverage of book 1 that Vakesh was mated to Shivaria. That mating bond was severed when he died in the sundering, and that mating bond transferred to the only other unmated man in the room at the time, which was Xeyvian.
Mm-hmm.
That is why Xeyvian and Shivaria are currently mates. So
Yes.
the line, not your student, not your mate, they were mates at one time.
They were.
Yeah.
And actually, Lindsey, we can take that one step further. We also have confirmation from Jess through her collaboration with Slow Burn Candles. They had done in the Child of Shivay candles a clue. And there were 2 clues, but the second clue was in the cap of a candle where it said Miajna on the cap. You turned it over and it said my mate. And that cap was put on Vakesh's candle. And when asked, Slow Burn Candles,
Yep.
Lauren confirmed and Jess confirmed that that was on purpose.
Yeah.
So
Of course it
we
is.
know for sure
Oh,
that
yeah.
Miajna is mate and
Yes.
there is a connection with Vakesh and mate.
So these partial truths, we think Vakesh knows that he was Shivaria's mate. I think Muri also knows this. The question is, does Muri know Vakesh knows that she knows that he is the mate? That's the big question.
I think so.
I absolutely think so. Yeah. There's so much at this point that out in the open and so much shenanigans. Why would she not know that he knows that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's so many bigger fish to fry that it makes sense.
For
yes.
sure.
Well, Kesh is very emotional right now. And there is an abrupt burst of wind that rushes through the hall, whips Muri's hair around across her face, and she recognizes what's going on here. And in our last episode 6 coverage, we said we think Vakesh's power is this elemental power, earth, air, fire, water. And so this wind use here confirms his power. She realizes he's using his power right here. And she says to him, she sighs, she says, you still want her. But it's like, duh, yeah, of course he still wants her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we'll get more of it later, too. But
Yeah.
I loved that we get this little confirmation.
Yeah, there are so many things that happened in this chapter specifically that I felt like we got a lot of theory confirmations in this that we were like, yes, you know? Yeah. All right.
Yep.
So Muri goes on to say, quote, be happy the fates did not bind you to her in such a way. I paid a high price to learn that she would mate another. And then her hand falls to her ribs, no doubt remembering the bargain she made to obtain that information. All right. There's a lot to unpack in this quote.
Bargains are on your ribs. So I think she's pressing here an unfulfilled bargain she made. And I think because what she's just reacting to right here is Vakesh and his love and still devotion to Shivaria. And I think her holding this bargain is her hearkening back to when she made that bargain to obtain all of this information. I don't know who she paid it to. Remember, only Thane can feel their own mating bonds, right? She would not be able to be privy to that information. So she'd have to go to some type of creature who can give her that information. And I think she made a bargain with that creature to find out all of this, that they were mates, that they are not currently mates anymore, and that she is mated with Xeyvian. I think that was important enough for her to be willing to bargain anything to get that information.
So what about the first part of this where it says, be happy the fates did not bind you to her in such a way? Like we literally just talked about how they were originally mated. So is this like, well, it ended up not binding you guys?
I took
that's
it
how I read it.
Okay.
I took it more of the fact that be happy the fates did not bind you because she knows what the fate of the Valtura is. Like we've been wondering if the fate of the Valtura is to die as part of this process. So it would very much suck if you're mated to somebody who is now a Valtura who is destined to die. So that was kind of the way I interpreted it.
But they were mated.
Yes, but she's not stating that outright.
But like
to
ultimately.
him. Yes,
Ultimately.
like currently.
Ultimately mated. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
kind of think that part of her bargain actually, like, I think that she did almost anything she could to make sure that they wouldn't end up mated. And I think that's why he suffers so much because of it. Like, I think that she stepped in to change fate. Like, I think she made a bargain.
I would think the bargain would have to happen afterwards. And the reason I say that is because he was born, mated, and then died. There was no time for her to make a bargain for somebody who had not yet been born. I see that as the fates knowing something like that.
Yeah.
But you don't make bargains with the fates. You'd have to make it with some kind of being, presumably a fae creature who knows this information.
Yeah.
So I think of this as something she made after the sundering. And we know her child was lost well before the sundering. So I think these are two separate and distinct things. Because remember, she also wouldn't be able to necessarily be able to obtain that information until Shivaria herself was growing and planted, because you can't find out information about a creature that doesn't exist yet, right?
Right. But if you think about it, and I think this is what you were trying to say, Katharine, once Vakesh was continuing his life and Shivaria was planted in a seed, they wouldn't have known that she was fated to Xeyvian until Shivaria was born.
Exactly.
So in the meantime, she made this bargain because
she needed to know what was going to happen.
Right. Is she still fated to Vakesh?
Yeah.
Because
yes.
Right.
That's
and then
what
they
I'm
found
saying.
out. Right. And then they found out, no, she's no longer fated to Vakesh. And so when she is born of this seed, she will be fated to another.
Someone else.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm
That's
there.
my
I'm there.
point.
I like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
And I also think she wanted to obtain that information because that also led to the plan of pushing her towards Xeyvian, because we know how ridiculously powerful the king is.
King
and so using their mating bond, I think, is part of Muri's plan as well.
I don't know, because it does say later, though, that he didn't necessarily want Shivaria to have been accepted into the palace. So that, to me, means that he didn't want her in Xeyvian's hands.
Oh, yeah. I don't doubt he didn't want her there.
Yeah. But it
I
also
think
makes
so
me
that
think that they're working
complicates
together
things.
too. Like,
No, I mean, he's
which we'll
forced
talk about,
to do this. Like, Muri is making him do things he does not want to do, like breaking up with her on that boat.
It just complicates things.
Yeah. I have a theory we'll get to later, but it's so tricky.
But I don't think what we postulated was that even though they don't have a technical mating bond, we still think they have a bond via Shivay. Her being the child of Shivay and him being bound to Shivay. I don't know if Muri realizes that.
Right.
Oh, I think that she does.
She guesses.
I think
she feels it.
I do.
Her powers.
I think that's why she has him oath to her, so that he has to do what she wants. Like, he can't just go rogue and do whatever he wants with the Valtura. That keeps her control over him as the one that's bound to the Valtura.
Vakesh then asks this heartbreaking question. He says, and what if she had been mine? And Muri responds by saying, I love you, and it still wouldn't change a thing.
So,
gosh. So she's still going to do it no matter what. She's like, I love you, but the point is the point.
But I think you're right then, Lindsey, because he's putting all of the cards on the table right here. He's saying, what if she had been mine? So he's admitting he knows that they were mated. So I think you're right. I think Muri really just knows freaking everything. But also, she doesn't disagree with him either. She just says it wouldn't change.
She says, I love you, but
she
not going to
doesn't
change
deny that she had
it wouldn't have happened.
his.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot said and what's not said, I think.
Yep.
Well, Vakesh responds by saying, free me from my oath. And she says, I will when this is over. Until then, you will not seek her without my permission, nor will you step foot inside the borders of the Fae territory. You will not tell anyone of our conversation or send them to find her. This is her very clearly giving her instructions that bind him so that he truly cannot, and we'll see that happen later on in the chapter.
I think that this kind of validates the point I made a minute ago about how that's why she has him oath to her, because he says, free me from my oaths, and she's like, I will when this is over. So she wants that control over him, and the only reason she would want that control over him is because she knows that he is bound to Shavaria. There's
Yep.
no other reason.
That's a good point. I like
Yeah, he's going to do what he's going to do for her, always.
And it shows such manipulation from Yuri. Like, she's very much a user of people. And, like, she's just manipulating this whole thing. But it also proves, and it gives an entirely new light to what we suspected in book 1. He is oathbound to Muri. So when he broke her heart, it was not because he didn't. It's not because he wanted to. Muri made him do that. And at the very, 100%. Very end of the book, when he wanted to say more, and I think I talked about this in our episode Deep Dive, I was like, he was reacting like somebody who's like, I'm going to just take it as you yell at me because I cannot say anything more. And it's true. She is controlling him. And it proves he still loves her. He's not done anything against her that he wasn't against his will forced to do.
Yeah. So everyone who's a Vakesh hater, I'm just kidding. But seriously,
but true.
This just again proves he was not awful. He was shaking at certain points, doing certain things and saying certain things because he was literally forced, and we get confirmation in this chapter that he literally has to do exactly what Muri says.
Yes, because when he talks about the feeling that he gets when she's like pouring this command into his being, it's not something that's pleasant that he's experiencing. And it's just, I think all of this was kind of just lending itself to how manipulative she was, that I don't use people against their free will like this. I wasn't on board with it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow for sure. Well, we do get another nod to his power. He says, quote, "The torrent of my emotion flickers and cracks in the form of lightning over the trees." And Muri responds and reacts to this lightning. And there is like a whole exchange that proves that our theory that this is his power, and that it is very much connected to his emotions. So all of those scenes that we pointed out in our coverage of Child of Shivay, when he is upset, we talked about when Shavaria goes back and gets punished she goes to meet Bronson. It's not Bronson, it's Lyanna, and she gets punished. And we know that he sees the whole thing happen. And there's that storm that, like, all of the moments that we guessed were actually storms and things happening because he was feeling really heightened emotions because he was upset. This proves that, again, we freaking figured it out, and I'm so excited about it. Got it.
Well, what's Muri gonna do? Producing the mask from within the folds of her tattered robe, she walks
This
towards
is the mask,
doors.
if anyone's watching. This is it.
She walks towards the doors of the keep, and then she places the mask over her face, and in a shimmer of shadow and starlight, we harped on that word in our deep dive coverage, the image of the female I loved so dearly as a child is replaced with that of the crone. So remember, guys, Auri made Bagya this mask to save someone's life. We don't know who that was yet.
Can we take a moment here, though, too?
Yeah, I
feel like
Katharine, you did not properly celebrate
that
at all.
You did not celebrate. We correctly guessed that Bagya is Muri. This is the point.
Yeah.
Well, Muri says she will use the Fae to find Shavaria, and Vakesh reminds her that, quote, "Your deception has only driven her away from us, and for all of the Lotari taught her, she was never taught to forgive." And Muri responds, "I don't need her forgiveness." I don't like that, because that sounds to me like she's going to take her against her will type of situation. And I also don't like Muri using the Fae. The Fae to me are not creatures to be used, and it just, the way she flippantly says she'll just use the Fae, that was not respectful. I didn't like it.
See, I don't know that I read into Muri's intentions as like negative as you do. I think that she's approaching things in the wrong way. I don't know that, like, Kelly, I like the way that you said it earlier when you're like, she's almost like a zealot. Like, she is ultimately on the right path, but has like
She's just
lost her
misguided.
way.
Yes.
Yeah, like she's lost her way to get there. So when she's like, I'm going to use the Fae, I don't know that she's saying I'm going to use the Fae as in use them against their will. When she's with the chapter with Nurai and we learn she obviously has that connection to the Fae. So I don't know that it has turned into negative. I just think she's misguided, you know? So
which is fair, right? I should give her a chance to make amends. She hasn't actually killed somebody to
and we haven't
accomplish
seen
anything.
it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I would say lost her way. If she does kill somebody, I think obviously we would be like,
oh, yeah. But again,
Yeah.
everything that we've seen from her has been through somebody else's point of view.
Yes.
This is really the first time that we're seeing her actions. And really in this chapter, the only negative we're getting from her is that she calls Shivarian it. Yeah, we don't like that. But we also know that Vakesh is very sensitive when it comes to Shivaria.
Yeah.
If you read this chapter without that rose, like whatever the opposite of a rose-colored glasses is,
Shit
you know what I
colored
mean?
glasses.
shit color,
right?
Yeah.
Like Vakesh colored glasses on.
Well, she
is
does
what she's
use
doing.
his free will against him. She does do that.
Right.
Yes, but we're
sh-
seeing someone who
From
loves
his
someone
point of
so
view.
deeply that they're
Yeah.
connected, and then imagine in the war to save the world, one person's like, but wait, you can't do this thing because I love this one person. The fuck do I? You know what I mean? Muri's like, I don't fucking care if you love this
Yeah.
person. I
Don't
love that you love
disagree.
them.
Yeah.
But like, come on, like this. There's
Don't
a whole
disagree.
lot more writing
and
on
we're,
it. I think
and
that's
we're
what
learning
we're seeing.
about that in a chapter that's written from that lover's point of view.
Yes.
Yes,
And
We're
so I
blinded
think
by
that's
love.
tough. Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I do disagree with actively forcing somebody's free will. That's
Fair.
I mean,
Yeah.
that
But
one I'm
okay,
not gonna
but listen,
be okay with.
there are people that are oathed to Xeyvian. So you have to make
True.
the same argument for him there.
I agree. I
Yeah.
would have to say how they are using it. And it would be
Yeah.
every single time it is used. Is it to call an oath because we all have to go to war? That's acceptable. You gave an oath because you are binding yourself to a king in times of war. But to basically say, you're going to stay out of it and I'm going to bind you here so you can't do anything.
You're going to lie for me. You're going to hide
Yeah.
my identity. Like, I just think it gets
And it's a time
tricky
of war, and so
and
it's
gray.
like
Yeah.
Well, it's not
yeah,
technically a time of
exactly.
war. Not technically.
I
Technically,
think
the
they
Second War
see it.
ended
think
20
it
years
is.
ago.
No, I
They
think
are
we're in a
absolutely in a
time
war.
of war. We're
Yeah.
absolutely in a time of war.
It might not be declared a war, but it is a war.
Yeah. There's just so much in these books. And how many times have we said, like, we just don't have enough information? And I think
Yes.
that this is one of those times. I think that there's so many things that we see from other characters' perspectives. And we had this conversation over and over and over about how in book one, about how we only saw it from Vari's perspective. And we only learned things from Vari's perspective. And that really changed the way that we thought about a lot of things. And so I think that we have to have that same conversation here where we're only learning about these things through Vakesh's perspective.
Right.
And I just think that, again, you learn about Xeyvian and learning that Xeyvian was a Vatruk once, and you have those conversations about being morally gray and how things aren't just black and white and how things can change. And I think that we have to have that conversation when it comes to Muri too. All right, well, she leaves and Vakesh says, fuck.
Yeah, he's
and
like,
fine.
takes off through the keep.
Yeah.
So he takes off through the keep looking for help. He mentions that uniformed recruits salute him and step aside. So they are organized. That is interesting to me.
yeah.
Talk about they're not at war, but they have an organized army with uniforms. Yep. Okay.
But
interesting.
the description of it is like this almost like militia
It's camo.
or like guerrilla warfare type
He's
of
about to go
thing.
to his the cousins and interrupt them with a soldier.
Yeah.
They're at war. This is a war.
Well, think about in Xeyvian's bonus chapter, the word he uses was the resistance,
Mm-hmm.
right? When he talks about Vakesh. So
yeah, and I remember them saying that the Latari, like theirs were described as like this muddy brown color, but I don't know if we ever got like a description of the Acherai soldiers. So I also have to wonder if these are actually like maybe Acherai soldiers in uniform, or if this is something like a resistance uniform. Like, that's curious.
I don't think so, because I think later he says, like, while he was in Acherai, he got people to their side. So that read to me that they were like on the side of Acherai, and he persuaded them to join their cause instead. He says that they're like brown and green like the jungle. So I think that they are in like jungle camo.
Yes.
Gotcha.
They're wearing something that is strategic for where they are. So it's not just happenstance. It is very much on purpose. Yep.
He goes to his room and takes a small leather-bound bundle off of his desk. So let's put a pin in this leather-bound bundle, because we will see it come up later in this chapter. And then he barges into a room, and a handsome soldier says, "Fucking isht," and tumbles off of the bed, leaving two females in bed. And it is obvious that there has been some shenanigans happening in this bed. Okay.
I like them. They're just so funny.
I love
Except that they're
them.
cousins.
No, they're cousins to each other, not him.
But
they're cousins to each other, and they're in bed together.
I mean, I'm not going to judge this other world and how they handle things. I think they're freaking hilarious.
Maybe we judge them in a lot of ways. This is not the way.
Okay.
This is not the way.
I will not put my human morality.
We don't know how far
because
down the line they are.
Yeah, because they could be cousins, but then I think he says like people thought they were sisters. That probably actually would make it worse.
They were twins.
That would make it worse.
Okay.
That's where we'll draw the line.
Okay. So their names are Voski and Freya. Freya has deep red eyes, a deceptively sweet face, and a curtain of white hair that Vakesh makes note has grown since he has gone to Acherai. Now, I do think it's interesting that he mentions her hair has grown.
Yeah.
Why do we think that this was pointed out to us? Any theories? Do we feel like we're going to get a backstory here, maybe?
It's just weird because we know the book one happened over 1 month period. So it's like, I don't think anybody would be able to tell how much my hair grew in a month.
Unless it was like he just says I went to Acherai, but maybe like via his Latari time.
I don't know. I took it as it's been a while
like
since
all those years,
her, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a better theory, to be honest. I don't have a better theory.
I just think it's odd that it was pointed out to us that her hair has grown. I think that we're going to come back to this at some point.
Voski has long white curls and porcelain skin. And Vakesh also makes mention that albinism runs in their family, and that is also what gifted them with the red eyes. Quote, a curious distinction among the Fain. Do we think this is because they all have blue eyes, or is there something else hidden behind those words? What do these red eyes mean?
I think that, yes, they obviously, most Fain have blue eyes. And so the fact that their family is different, I think is pointed out very
What's
important.
Up with their family?
Yeah,
their family's
exactly.
Going to come back.
Why is it different? Yeah, who are they?
It also gave me the impression, so we know that Fain came from Fae and human, like down the lines. That's what made the Fain. So I have to wonder if they have such a curious trait in their family lineage, if they perhaps maybe have more Fae in their lineage, and that might become important later on.
That's a good point, because think about the sprites. They have pink eyes and purple eyes and all these different eye colors. So that
and maybe they call it
Kath.
albinism, but maybe it's not necessarily that. That's just their interpretation.
I like that.
Also,
I like that.
Isn't it in the bonus chapter when Xeyvian sees and he says that he thinks that was always born more Fae than Fain?
Yes. Because she's so old.
Yeah, but and he like looks at her face and her features and everything. So those to me are very like similar descriptions for some reason.
But I just need to say, and I hope I'm right, but I freaking love them, and I think I am going to love them in the future. I just have good feelings about these two. I love them. And to me, the fact that they do literally exactly what Vakesh says, we'll get to it later, no questions asked, and they're in, I'm like, I love you too.
It's like the movie, my husband quotes it all the time. He like goes in a room and he's like, okay, this is the kind of friend that you need. He's like, all right, we need to go mess somebody up.
The town.
He's like, in the town. He's like, we need to go mess someone up. He's like, get your baseball bat. Don't ask questions. And the guy just looks at him and he's like, whose car are we taking?
Yeah,
like, that's it.
That is Vasky
I'm not
and
going to
Freya.
ask you. Right. I'm not going to ask you. I don't care who we're messing up. Like, whose car are we taking?
If you told me to do it, I would trust you.
Yep.
Vakesh recognizes the soldier as one that he had recruited from Acherai and says, perhaps I would have persuaded more to join us had my attention not been torn by Vari's acceptance into the palace. It wasn't the plan, and the same high walls and powerful fane surrounding her there that should have kept her safe only barred me from protecting her in the end. Okay.
This is so confusing to me.
I have theories here. Woo!
Yeah, I had to read this. I think I read this quote 17 times.
Yes.
Over and over and over, like being like, okay, wait, this is one I need to read like word for word, because he didn't want her to go to the palace, despite the fact that the whole point of the mission was for her to go to the palace to kill the king.
Yep.
So that also, remember in the beginning of this episode when we talked about her getting off the ship and like that wasn't the point. This leads me back to that maybe that is what they were talking about, that she wasn't actually supposed to do that he was supposed to stop her from that mission.
Yeah.
Right? That would make this make more sense.
Yes.
Or how many missions are there? And we know he's oath-bound, but to what extent can he get away with not following those oaths? So maybe she was supposed to go to Acherai, but she wasn't supposed to go to the palace because she was supposed to stay with Tig, even though the sprites followed her to the palace. And then whose plan was it? Was it Muri's? Was it the Resistance? Was it Felius? Whose plan is all of this? There's 14 different sides to this
But
thing.
then he goes on and says that the high walls and powerful fane there should have kept her safe. So he's admitting that once she got there, she was safe.
So this actually makes me think that Xeyvian and Vakesh they're possibly on a similar side, or at least partially connected in some way.
Okay, so wait a second. So let's think about it from the perspective that Xeyvian and Vakesh are on the same side, okay? But that Vakesh did not know that Xeyvian was the king. Now let's reread this quote. Perhaps I would have persuaded more to join us had my attention not been torn by Vari's acceptance into the palace, because I didn't know that Xeyvian was the king. It wasn't the plan and the same high walls and powerful fane surrounding her there that should have kept her safe. Xeyvian only barred me from protecting her in the end. So technically, if he knew that Xeyvian as the general and Xeyvian as Xeyvian the Vatruk, former Vatruk, would have kept her safe, but he didn't know as Xeyvian as the king. So he didn't want her to get accepted to the palace because he didn't know that Xeyvian was the king that she was actually sent to kill.
Yes, I agree.
But our theory is that he is glamored, but Shivaria can see through it. And so because it works on Shivaria doesn't mean it works on Vakesh. So Vakesh sees one person, trusts this person. I think that they are working together in some way to help protect Shivaria, but I agree. I don't think that he knew that he was actually that he was actually the king. And that is what is this tricky part. And he was like, wait a minute, hold on. She can't go into the palace because of course they're going to bring her into the palace if he actually is the king, right? Like that's the part that he didn't know.
So he did want her to go on the mission to kill the king of Acherai, thinking that the king was somebody else and that General Xeyvian would protect her from outside the palace walls with the help of
Yes.
Pelias.
Yes, I
Although-
think Vakesh trusts Xeyvian,
Yeah.
and I think he trusts the group that we know, which is tricky to
Now
me.
that I'm reading more into this quote with that perspective, I kind of am agreeing with
Yeah.
that. I think that Xeyvian and Vakesh might be on the same side.
I do too.
I don't know if I'm totally sold on how close they are together themselves. And the only thing that gives me pause is from Xeyvian's point of view chapter, right?
I was literally about to say that. That
we
makes me want to go back and reread
we talk
that.
about the manipulations that were that Xeyvian was experiencing, but the manipulation stopped short of something that they knew was so intrinsic to Xeyvian that they couldn't push against, right? They had to tread lightly because they had this very tenuous hold on him. And Xeyvian makes a point of saying, where is Vakesh and all of this stuff? And he's starting fires and he's part of the resistance and all of these things. And I have
Let me read the quote. I pulled the quote up for you.
Yes, because
it might change you. Yeah.
Yeah. So say the quote and then I'll tell you what I'm thinking.
Okay. So here's a quote, just so everyone is clear. This is the paragraph from Xeyvian's bonus chapter. Captain, I say, and a tall, faint male with dark hair and scarred hands step forward as I continue. Your report claims that it is the resistance who set the fires in Acherai. He nods, and you are certain that Vakesh is among them. He clears his throat, hands clasped behind his back when he says, I have not seen him myself, but the reports I have received by those who knew him are undeniable.
Keep going.
That's all. Leave him, Xeyvian, Sai says. His part in this will be resolved the moment the veils fall. When I don't immediately agree, she steps toward me and says, he is not yours to manage. Leave him to Voss. I nod hesitantly before returning to the others. Nyx, Arda, you will travel with your sister and help keep the Voltura contained. That's all he says about him.
He doesn't say anything after that?
Nope.
I think he wants to know where he is because I think that they're working together.
So I think when we originally read that, we read that with a negative view in mind. But now when we pair those two quotes together, there's not negativity. Your report claims that the resistance who set the fires in Acherai, he nods, and you are certain that Vakesh is amongst them. That's it.
He's trying to get information like, you're certain that would happen? Because we had a different plan.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And Lindsey, repeat one other thing that you said just after that line. It was Xeyvian almost hesitates or something?
Yes. Sai has responded to him and he says, when I don't immediately agree, she steps towards me and says, he is not yours to manage. Leave him to Voss.
So I think that was part of their manipulation failing on Xeyvian because...
And then I nod hesitantly.
Yes, nod hesitantly. That's what I'm saying.
Man, that changes things for me, though. I'll be honest.
Yeah. When I also had to reread that a couple of times.
Yeah.
But literally, before we got on to record tonight, I was like, I can't wait to talk about this quote because I was like, I think that they're working together. And I think I think the artwork with the two of them and Shivaria at the back of the special edition, there's not, I don't know, there's like not animosity. And obviously it's just a picture, but like, come on now. Like they're just, it feels
but also
like
that picture
they're all
like doesn't
together.
exist.
No, it doesn't exist. What if they're all working together to, you know what I mean? Like maybe that's what this picture is, like the two of them working simultaneously to protect her and keep her safe and move things forward.
So it also further makes me love both of them and want them to somehow magically have a happy ending, because this is the first time where I have a love triangle where I absolutely love both of them. They're not bad guys. They're not bad people. They care about her. They're not manipulating her or anything. Hell, Xeyvian didn't even tell her what to do the whole damn book, because he's like, she's gonna go at her own process, let her cook, and I'm gonna let her cook. I mean, so self-sacrificing when we've got a war that's about to brew, and Vakesh is doing everything he can with his hands and legs tied up in a freaking knot by his aunt. They're such good guys. They need a happy ending, all of them.
I know. And I think that we are all people who are Team Xeyvian are Team Xeyvian because that's the person that we got to see so much of in this book.
Yeah.
And
Vakesh mentions that they are members of the Blade, which clearly is the name of their organization. Pretty battle forward name for me there, guys. The Blade. Pretty sharp.
You mean like a Fainstone blade?
Vakesh tells him that he needs their help and lifts his arm to show his oath to Mary, and they immediately understand that he cannot ask them for what he truly wants. This is whose car are we taking right now?
Yeah.
Quote,
I love the cousins.
The oath that binds me to my aunt is an unfathomable weight I would have shed years ago if I'd had the choice. They understand it more than most. They were present when I bound myself to her before the first war, despite the protest they'd privately voiced to me. So this gives us some context for timing here. All right. Remember that Shivaria was born during/after the Second War. So Vakesh has been oathed to her for quite some time. And when he was presumably quite young, right? We don't have an exact age, but pretty young. It also means that the cousins have been in his inner circle with him for quite some time. And clearly he does trust them.
Yep. I love that. I love that he has people he can rely on.
Yes.
And know what made me trust them even more? The fact that they were privately voicing to him, I don't know if you should, like they were trying to look out for him.
Yeah.
Whether or not we believe, we've had our, disagreements or like different readings on Muri's intentions, right? But like, regardless of if we think that she is doing things for just the wrong thing for the right reasons or has malicious intent, the fact that they are like, buddy, watch out, it makes me trust them even more.
It also makes us have to remember that whatever her intentions were, he willingly oath-bound himself to her.
He did.
But man, when you say he's young, I have to wonder how young. Like how young and impressionable maybe he could have been. Right. But I also love the fact that obviously they're all in the same place, right? Physical place, right? This keep. So obviously these cousins are with Muri and trusted by her, but they're still not 100% loyal to her. But they are loyal to Vakesh. And I think that's very, very interesting to note that it's like Muri doesn't have control over these. And I wonder, she just didn't, I guess, foresee this, because otherwise they have oaths themselves. You would think she would want to try to control anybody in Vakesh's inner circle, but he's still got these that he can rely on that apparently will go against Muri's wishes if that's what Vakesh wants.
Yeah. And I think it is further proof to Lindsey's point earlier of multiple sides, and you can be even if you split it into like one side versus the other within one faction, you also have people who are like, well, okay, I'm not fully 100% and I'm gonna have like my little side quests, and this is another example of that.
Lindsey said there's 17 sides, and I think that's probably an accurate count number at this point.
And Felius is on all 17 of those sides.
That's right.
Vakesh tells the cousins, quote, I was wrong to let Valtura venture into the forests of Brax alone, but she will not be alone for long. I only fear who might find her first. And they both immediately understand. They've clearly been working around these oaths for a long time. They quickly get dressed. And it is dropped that, in particular, Voski's outfit shows, quote, every bargain she's still bound to displayed upon her side. So she is not scot-free. She has some bindings that she is still held to. Curious what those are. I have a feeling we will find out.
But that kind of supports what we were saying earlier, right? Those bargains, that's where they're displayed.
They're on the rib.
It's interesting because
Yeah.
it's the odes, they're red and they're here. So the bargains are black and they're like on your ribs.
Yep. And Vakesh hands her the small bundle of cloth that he had taken from his room. Guesses to what this is? I think that we have some potentials. What do we think?
Time the word bundle is used in book 1, and I looked it up, is the bundle that had the Shadowbane.
Yeah.
Why he would need Shadowbane now and what it could be used for, I don't have a clue. I'm just mentioning the facts.
Yes, and can we remind our listeners what Shadowbane is and does? Katharine, do you remember exactly what he had it for in the beginning?
Shadowbane was what Vakesh gave to Shivaria before she left the ship to try to keep her demon in check. It's apparently poisonous and deadly, we later find out. It's those flowers that Tig also was growing for her. But for some reason, it doesn't poison and kill Shivaria, but it does have some manipulations because she's been drugged. And it's having impacts on her dreams and what she remembers about her dreams. She is Valtura, right? She's been released. So if it is Shadowbane, I don't know what it's used for now or if that is even what it was. But the word bundle was just very interesting.
Lindsey, any different theories, or are you feeling that too?
No, but it does. I don't like that because the only reason he would be giving her that would be to tamper down Shivaria's power. And I don't like that implication.
Or maybe it's not for Shivaria at all. Maybe they need to use Shadowbane for something else that we just don't know of yet.
Yeah, maybe they get high off of it.
Yeah, I just the only thing we've ever seen it do was to dampen her power or to presumably kill the king.
Yes, exactly. True. It kills Fane. So if it's also being given to them so that they have poison,
they have a weapon.
They have a weapon. It could also be just used for that.
I like that better. Vakesh continues, saying, quote, Valtura will need allies before she arrives here. I hope I don't see you again until she has them. So he's assuming that Shivaria will end up there, presumably because Muri's going to find her. Yeah. She's going to need some friends, and you better find her and be those people for her. That's how I read it.
Yeah. End up here being the sunken keep.
Yeah. And did Vakesh see Shivaria leave with Tig specifically? I know that Thelius nodded, but then he probably doesn't know that Tig is with her and Tig is an ally.
Right. I don't know that he necessarily saw or knows.
I think he did.
What ended up happening. I think he knows that she jumped off the ship and she is somewhere, but I don't know that he thinks.
But look at him.
He said she's alone. She's not alone. We know that.
Yeah.
We actually have proof. He has said she is alone. That is untrue. So you know that he is not aware.
But look at him. He's finding her allies as best he can. What a good boy.
Oh, for sure. He's doing what he can to give her help.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's read that with the fact that maybe he does know that she's with Tig.
Oh, no, don't do that.
I was wrong to let Vatura venture into the forest of Brax alone, but she will not be alone for long. I only fear who might find her first. What if that's Tig?
I interpreted
I don't like that.
I fear she won't be alone for long as Muri's coming after her, and that's him telling them Muri's coming after her.
But
what if it's not?
But what if it's not? She will not be alone for long. I fear who might find her first. What if, again, he's oathbound. He can't talk about certain things.
Right.
So what if he does know that she's with Tig and he doesn't want Tig to have found her?
And maybe he thinks that Muri and Tig are on the same page too. Maybe he doesn't realize how much Tig is.
I don't think it's likely, but I think that
it's possible.
I accept it as possible.
I don't like it.
I trust Tig, and I trust that Vakesh is loyal to Shivaria. At the end of the day,
I only fear who might find her first, and we know that the person that found her first was Tig.
Yes, but I'm going to go on. Yes, agree. It can be said that way.
Kelly's getting hot.
I'm fanning myself with one of our unhinged bookmarks because I'm sweating thinking about this.
That's unhinged.
But I like it better that he doesn't know that, and he's just not able to say Muri, so he's just saying, I fear who might, and that who might is
That
Muri.
is what I prefer.
And so that's what I'm going to say because it makes me happy.
Yes. Again, I think it's very unlikely, but still potential. There's potential there.
Well, he is about to take off to the forest. He says his aunt has the ears of the Fae and knows their paths better than any Bane in their veil. So what does Vakesh do? He's going to find a Fae. So he goes into the Braxian jungle and heads towards the border. He screams for a nymph named Ash and says, quote, the child you lost, to get her attention. The child is clearly the Child of Shivay. It's interesting wording. So let's talk about the child you lost. Does it mean the child you, Ash, lost? Does it mean the child you, as in all of you, Fae, lost? Lost to what? Time? The Latari?
Yeah. Is it Ash specifically, the nymph, or is it the Fae in general?
I read this as like Ash was maybe supposed to be like her keeper of some sort.
Yeah.
Like she was
why Ash
maybe in
specifically?
charge of her seed kind of thing.
It's interesting because Ash is a nymph, right? And that's a new character for us. We've been introduced to a naiad, and we were introduced to a bog sprite who handed Muri the seed. So who is Ash in all of that?
Yeah, I don't know. Because again, that's adding a whole new creature in here. And then the question would be, how did that creature get the seed? Like, did she steal it? Was it given to her and she lost it? Like, did the Latari steal it from her? Did she literally drop it somewhere and lose it? Like, this whole, the child you lost, those 4 lines could bring up 18,000 different iterations of what that story could be, and I will spiral about every single one of them.
Okay. But it's interesting the fact that he goes on to say, or he goes on to think, but if anyone on Terr will stand in my place against the path my aunt has chosen, surely it would be her, Ash. So he knows that there's animosity between Ash and Muri. And I think this is kind of like, this is why he's going to her. He knows that she'll stand against Muri, essentially, for him.
Whether it's because it's Muri specifically or it's because they have different goals, I don't know. But there's definitely dissonance.
Vakesh is impatient, though, waiting for her, and he crosses the border. Remember that earlier in the chapter, Muri forbade him to, quote, step foot inside the borders of the Fae territory. So he ends up in immense pain and crawls back, basically on the brink of death. So side note, knowing that this type of immense pain comes when you break an oath, I think we should look out for this in the future. I would be shocked if this is the one broken oath we see in the series.
So
right?
I need to reread, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Do it all over again.
What if Kashyyyk is in so much pain?
What if
he's going against an oath?
Yeah. So I just think that there's something to that, knowing that now we understand what happens when you break an oath.
Yes.
And then he continues, quote, Muri won't harm her. She needs Vari at any cost. It is the last sentiment that will forever divide me from my aunt. The rest I understand well. So she's going after Shavaria. He knows that she will not harm her.
Yeah.
Yet.
Interesting. Yet? Question mark? At any cost. It is the last sentiment that will forever divide me from my aunt. At any cost. So she won't kill Shavaria, but she'll kill any other person.
Oh, and then The rest I understand. That's him being like, I can die. I don't care about dying. You can't kill her.
Sacrifice.
Yeah. Sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. Keeps coming back to that as much as we don't want to.
Well, a voice startles Vakesh asking, "What of the child?" I don't know why that's her voice.
Ooh, I like that voice.
Glowing green eyes, red fiery halo of long hair. He says, "I would tell you if I could." He remembers that Muri had debriefed the Blade, including the female cousins that we just met, and told everyone that Voltura had returned to these shores, but to tell no one. She sees the crimson band of the oath and understands, but Vakesh thinks she would have learned long ago how to navigate the bonds and bargains of our kind. So he knows full and well that he can kind of do a similar thing that he just did with the cousins and get around somehow. I think this is important for us to know so that we can see, yes, there are oaths that exist, but there are sneaky ways that people can communicate if they need to. And so it doesn't mean that just because you're oath-bound that you truly have no way to move forward with what you need to do.
And it shows that they are like, your feign oaths are nothing to us.
True.
Yeah. And I think it's also meant to show that she's probably old. Like she's been around the block for a while.
Her name is Ash, only 3 letters.
Yeah. Like I think that she doesn't give a shit about what you're doing.
I agree.
Going back to Vakesh's oath, because I just had a thought, because you remember we were talking about how he would have made those oaths to Muri well before Shivaria was born. And not knowing that his mate was out there, that he was going to fall in love with her. And that's just really sad. Like, I realized that he oath-bound himself to Muri, not knowing, because he didn't probably fathom that was his mate. That it's just so sad.
She doesn't even go here.
Oh, Danny DeVito, I love your work.
Have a lot of feelings.
Having a lot of feelings.
Katharine.
It's just really
That was
sad.
precious.
I loved it.
That was absolutely precious. Catherine is having feelings, everyone.
Oh, I loved that.
It was just so sad. And
or
think your thoughts out loud.
What if Muri knew? But what if she knew that she knows everything? That's why her head's so big.
And
it's
guess
full
what?
of secrets.
Her hair is very big, and it's full of secrets that she doesn't give a shit about. She knows she don't give a shit.
And I just am afraid of what she knew and what he was binding himself to her, not knowing, but she might have known. And my gosh, you poor little innocent child. I just want everybody to live happily ever after.
Oh my god.
This is descending into chaos. I love this. That was so funny.
Catherine has feelings, everyone.
She has feelings.
And I love Xeyvian too. I love everybody.
I just love everybody.
Why can't they all just get along?
Raise your hand if you've ever been personally victimized by Muri. Clearly, Katharine.
So I'm just a victim of this chapter.
The Mean Girls Vakesh crossover that we didn't know that we needed.
God. Personally victimized by the old crone.
By Bhagya. By Bhagya / Muri.
Ash asks if she, the child, is dead or injured, and Vakesh shakes his head. Ash then asks if she is in danger, but he doesn't answer. And she's like, okay, I got you.
So the way to not be oath-bound is to just not answer things.
Not answer.
Right. I wonder if he gave the famous JR Cathers eyeball emoji with his eyes. Like, pointed at his nose like you're getting close. They're playing charades.
That is canon.
Playing charades at the border of the fake Brax.
Nope, that's what happened.
Jungle.
Ash asks him where, but Vakesh can't tell her, only saying that he would go after her himself if he was able. But in his head, he thinks into their forest. But Ash asks who he's bound to. He tells her.
Okay, but wait. Okay, hold on. That to me thinks that he does know that she's with Tig.
Can you explain?
Say more. Why?
Because why else would she have gone into the Fey forest? He just like
But
you
he
guys
just
were saying,
went
oh,
into the
she
forest.
doesn't know. Into the Fey forest. All like just because she like unboarded the ship in Brax, like we were saying earlier,
Is
isn't
big.
all Fey territory, right? So the fact that he knows specifically that
fair.
she's in the Fey forest potentially leads to the fact that he knows that she's with Tig.
Or, counter, he knows she's in the Fey forest because Murray told him. He doesn't know she's with Tig, but Murray knows she's with Tig.
Did Murray say that
She told
she's
him
in-
he couldn't go into the Fey
Or-
forest.
He can't go into that
so he
forest to look for her.
deduced
Yes,
that
that
she
it
was
could
in
be.
the
there.
forest.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
So
he
Murray
said, she
could-
said
fair.
you cannot go
So
there
he
to look
didn't.
for her.
Miri didn't say she's in the forest. She just said don't go in the forest.
Mhm.
And Vakesh said, "Oh, because that's where she is."
Yes. Yes.
So how
yes.
does Miri know that she's there?
Because she knows everything. I told you, her head is
but
full of
she's
secrets.
in cahoots with Tig.
I think it's just
We don't know that
we don't know
Mm.
that. I think it's
Yeah.
because Murray knows a lot of things because she's
unless again Miri is in cahoots with the Fae. Just because she says I'm going to use the Fae, doesn't necessarily mean a negative
Right. It
thing.
could be use your connections.
I'm going to use my
friendships.
connections.
just
Yeah.
because she's
Yeah,
not working
exactly.
with Tig doesn't mean she's not working with other Fae who don't
Right,
have
right,
problems,
right.
and she has
Mhm.
knowledge from them about all this.
It also doesn't mean that every single Fae is on the same side.
Yeah. That's a
True.
very, very good point.
And remember, Felius said that the sisters are specifically on Shivaria's side. He
Yep.
made a point to not
Yes.
say they're not just on the side of the Fae. They are
Mhm.
on the side of Shivaria.
Ash then asks him who he is bound to, and he says, Murray. I swallow hard, debating the consequences of revealing the truth. All I know of the nymph are stories that I was told by my aunt long ago, stories she likely wishes she had never shared. So I get this kind of animosity between those two, that Ash does not necessarily like Murray and that they've got a background together.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I trust Ash because Vakesh trusts her
Yeah.
and because she doesn't seem to like Murray, and I'm on that bandwagon right now.
You're on
So
that train
I'm
right
just gonna-
now, yeah.
I'm just going to
Yeah.
choo-choo. Let's go. Let's go.
Listen, if I have to choose a side between Murray and Vakesh, I'm on Vakesh's side, regardless of
for
if they're
sure.
like
Yep.
somewhat aligned. I also remember that Jess told us in our interview that Vakesh is her favorite character, and
Mhm.
so I intrinsically trust him.
Yes,
Yep.
and I trust Tig and Vakesh. And now, because we think
Yes.
that Xeyvian's been working with Vakesh, and I mean, obviously Shivaria is his current mate, I trust him as well. Like, I don't think that any of them want...
you trust everybody.
No,
Just trust
no,
everybody.
no. I trust Tig,
The
Vakesh, and
majors.
Xeyvian to look for Shivaria first
Yes.
above all else.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree with
he
that.
leaves Ash with these parting words. He says Vasky and Freya are for her. So implying don't kill them when you come across them. They're okay. They're good.
Right.
Yep.
And they're going to do what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're for her. They're looking for her. They're on her side. That's what I got.
And then the whole chapter ends, quote, I don't waste time before turning back to the keep. With or without Vari, Murray will return, and there is so much to be done before that time. So, plans must be made. What does he want to do in that time? What's he planning?
It's a lot.
Also, I really go back. I don't know why I think about this all the time, but it really popped up to me when I was reading this chapter. Jess pointed out to us when we did our original episode 1 world building chapter with her that Vakesh is the only character to call Shivaria Vari.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else calls her Vari. And so this entire chapter, as I was reading it, I just read that over and over and over that he calls her Vari. And I just think that's so interesting. But going back to it, what are these plans? What has to be done?
I think somehow Felius is going to be brought into the fold.
Oh, yeah.
Because I do think that he trusts Felius. And I do think there's going to be some maneuvers there. Because I think that Felius can get and share information in a way that others can't. I don't know if I think that he is going to try anything with the other Betruk, with his parents. Like, I don't know what kind of relationship they have. Like, do they all know that he's not on their side? Like, what is that status?
And
does
he know that his mother tortured Vari?
No idea. No idea. I'm wondering if there's going to be something there. Yeah.
Does he know that Vari killed his father?
Does he know that Vari killed his father? And does he care?
I don't get the impression he would.
He might not care.
Honestly, he was trying to kill Vari. So he had it coming.
Right. Yeah. Still, that's still going to be shocking.
Oh, yeah, probably. But I mean, he's not with his parents. He's clearly not on their side.
But also, let's also not forget that there's a whole host of people that are missing in Auri, Rish. We don't know about Kashek's current whereabouts, right? That was a big question for us.
He's unconscious. Right? They just grabbed each an arm and dragged him out of there.
We have no idea. So there's a whole host of friends there that their whereabouts are currently unknown. So there's potential that they could be involved in these plans as well. Plus, let's think about who else was in Brax. Would be Auri and Rish's mother. So
and father.
When you talk about and father, so when you talk about other characters that could potentially be in Brax, they might have something to do with that as well. Like there are characters that were smuggling Fae from Brax into Acherai, right? And we talked about, well, who's doing it from the Braxian side. So there are people in Brax that are allies if it wasn't Vakesh himself, right?
True.
So, all right. So final thoughts, everyone.
Okay.
On this chapter. What do we think? What are our big takeaways from this?
Vakesh is loyal to Shivaria first.
100%.
Absolutely.
Trust him. Trust Tig. I think he's going to sacrifice himself.
Yeah. I think my big one is the whole Xeyvian and Vakesh.
Love that.
I think are working together in more ways than I think I realized.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. I am so glad that you're with me on that, because I was literally like, either they're going to be like, Kelly, that's a genius thing, or they're going to be like, the fuck are you talking about? and I couldn't tell. Like, you know when you have a theory?
We're good.
Listen, but you know, like when you have a theory and you're like, is this good or am I just delusional at this point? Like that was one of those for me. So I am glad, because I'm still on that fence. I do think that they are connected, because there were times in the book that I didn't even know if they knew who each other were. And then I was like, oh, well, they do know. But now, not only do I think they know who they are, I think they were actually connected and working together in some way.
Yeah.
I think my other big takeaway from this chapter, again, is just how much I love Vakesh, and just how difficult, like to Katharine's point, it is for me, I think, going into book 2, when we get book 2 of this story, of I don't want to say whose side I'm on, but like who I want to be the end goal with Shivaria. And I know that that's just the romance part of it. Like to me, this is an epic fantasy with a romance subplot. Like it is not romance first. It's more fantasy to me. And so I don't want to diminish it to just the romance, but I think this is something that we're going to go back and forth on so much. Right. And so it's like, I don't know who I think she's going to end up with. And I think it's important, because I think who she ends up with is going to be a major point of the plot of the war and how everything is settled. And so that's why I think it's so important.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
I think I can't think of another book where I was presented with options like this in a triangle where I could categorically say I like both of them.
Yes.
I think they're both good people. I am going to cry regardless.
No matter what.
I can predict that.
I think we're also so used to having to choose. I don't think we're necessarily meant to choose.
I agree.
Here.
I agree.
I think that the story is going to choose for us.
I agree.
Yeah, because it's only been a month.
Right, like I think in our typical, like when you think about a love triangle, and this is technically set up as a love triangle, right, between three people. Yeah. In the case of a love triangle, you have strong feelings towards one or the other, and you have the way that you want it to go. I think that our feelings don't matter, right? I think to Kelly's point, like she said, it's a subplot, but it is part of the plot.
Yeah.
And that romance will be a significant part of how this story plays out because it will have to do with the path that Vari chooses. And so I don't think that we're going to choose. I think that the plot and the world is going to choose for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to end this story, Shivaria's story, being so happy for one outcome and so devastated for the other.
At the same time.
At the same
time. Absolutely.
Can I just say again, I loved being back in this world.
I know. I also am very happy to say that the day that this episode releases, we will be in Los Angeles with Jess at RomanticyCon, which is like a dream come true. Like we will be with her celebrating the release of this episode.
Insane.
And that's so fucking cool.
We are going to have no chill.
No chill whatsoever.
It is going to be a very, very long group hug.
We're such nerds. We're such nerds. Like this, I don't know, we get into the mushy stuff of what this podcast has brought into our lives. And this is definitely one of them, like being able to make all of these connections with authors and other podcasters and listeners and influencers and be able to turn them into real life friendships is absolutely incredible.
Yep.
So here we are.
I can't wait.
I can't wait to meet our friend.
Thank you. And seriously, thank you to the listeners too, because you all are the reason why it's possible. I know it sounds really corny, but because you all loved this coverage so much and all these things, like it just helped us to solidify the relationships that we have with you all and with the authors. And that's why we're going. And it just feels like you all are part of it too. So thank you. Gah.
Are you going to cry?
No, I cried in our last episode that we recorded. I'm not going to cry this time. All right. Well, that is a wrap on our bonus episode for Child of Shivay. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Be sure to like, follow, rate, and comment on our podcast wherever it is that you are listening, and follow us on our social media channels so we can find more unhinged fantasy readers just like you and us. And be sure to join us for our next Fantasy Friday. Happy reading. Bye.
Bye.